All right, people. So this is on the fly. I'm looking after my little grandson. I'm so used to saying grandson. After my little granddaughter. Tisha took Amari and Andre swimming. And what do you call it? It's just a little $50 mic, right? You're getting a glare from the window in the back, so I guess we'll just put it that way. Anyway, so this is what's going on. Because I'm looking after my little granddaughter, and she likes to be held because she's like almost 6 months old now, right? There's not much I can do. So I was actually washing my floor and that type of thing, but Tisha took Amari swimming, right? And Andre swimming. So I didn't put no notification out. I'm just kind of doing this on the fly here. And yesterday I was on the computer all day yesterday, like I said in my previous video, that I was going to make my previous live stream. I was going to make some videos, right, to update my web pages. Well, I accomplished that. It wasn't as good as I wanted to, but again, I'm working with a program that has no physical hard, covered book or whatever in terms of like directions and that type of thing. And for the life of me, when I was doing the pan was going out like that. And then it would go up over the picture and then hover and then go back over the picture. And I mean, there's obviously margins within what I'm looking at. But besides that point, I managed to get 5 videos up yesterday and it kind of burned me out. And today I'm washing my floor and that type of thing. But Tisha wanted to take Andre and Amari swimming, which is really, really good for Amari. So here I am watching my little granddaughter. And as I'm watching my little granddaughter, I'm following up with this. This is the point of this live stream now. Now we're getting into it, right? I keep track of what's going on the Mexican border there with the caravan from South America coming up, through Mexico and that type of thing. People coming in from Honduras and places like that, right? And as I'm watching one video, which at some point, and I've already made comment that I'm going to make reference to this other person's video that is actually out in the trenches. This is in ground zero, people. I'm up in Canada. I'm like, well, from here to California is like over 1,000 miles. So, we're probably looking at 1,000 miles and a bit, by car just to go and say hello. So I'm sitting up here in Canada on the West Coast watching this stuff, and I'm pretty politically inclined. I've been working on a nonprofit for a long time, so I have a pretty good handle on, social issues, whether they're large or small. And obviously there's going to be, there is a crisis. But it hasn't come to full bloom yet, people, in terms of the number of people coming up from South America, from Brazil all the way. I wouldn't maybe say as far as Brazil, but I wanted to do this video with a map behind me. I was going to wait because the reason I'm doing the video is because of this. This is the same bottle minus, do you see the cap? This one's white. Well, what sparked me to do this video is as I'm watching this person in the United States and Mexico, because she has dual citizenship, reporting or documenting or participating in, I wouldn't necessarily call it reporting, although some people do, maybe even she does. Because as soon as you start calling it reporting, what happens, it's like anything in life, you're cutting somebody else's grass. So, of course, the big media corporations, they don't necessarily like the independent reporters because they're more raw in terms of how they show things to the public. And, therefore, the traffic, because it's looking for truth, sometimes can take a detour from the major corporations, media outlets, that are basically government run so that you get censored news, and then their numbers drop, right? And so as soon as you call yourself a reporter, it can cause conflict. However, if you're in those situations and you don't call yourself a reporter, then the people that are being reported on don't necessarily want you around either, because then everybody can come under the sun with their cameras. So there's a fine line in there. But as I'm watching this most recent video with her at the border, now this just goes to show how bad my eyesight is. My computer screen is, there's a ruler right here. 1, 2, it's about 2 feet, maybe 4 inches. That's how far it was. It's not even 2.5 feet from where I'm sitting. And I don't know if anybody's watching or if somebody is, because I can't clearly read the number. If I cover up my eye this way, it's a little better. If I cover up my eye this way, obviously this eye is weaker than this eye. Like my right side is stronger than my left side. So, like I said, I wasn't planning on doing this video unless, 2 viewers. Okay, so now that I got your attention, let's stay focused. So, you came in late. Here's my little granddaughter. I'm babysitting because Tisha took Amari and Andre swimming. And as I'm sitting here watching a video, right, regarding a social issue in terms of the migration of people from South America coming to the United States border looking for asylum so that they can have more opportunities in their life, versus living in countries where, it's worse than the Congo. Right? If I think I'm living in the Congo, they're traveling 3,000 miles to get away from their Congo. So as I'm watching this and just knowing what happened in Europe and, what's been happening in Germany and Sweden and places like this, it's coming to the border of the United States of America. And it's already happening in Canada. It's just not talked about. And if it is, we've got our open arms through the federal Liberal government, housing these people and whatnot, because most of these people that are crossing the border illegally into Canada is up in the eastern part of Canada. I never hear of anything on the western part. So the idea that you're going to get, okay, put on my glasses. Oh my gosh, she is so darn cute. I know. Yeah, I've been having problems with my my computer. I don't know. I'm going to have to phone up actually my website provider for newnationsunity.com, because for the last couple of times I've been like clicking on, because I like my middies, I sit and I just listen to the middies, right? It's just something that just relaxes me. And I've been trying to get onto my own website and it's been kicking out. I don't know if it's my computer or if it's my service provider or if it's something with the host to the website, right? So because I'm going to be uploading videos here to the website and web pages and that type of thing, I'm going to be contacting my service provider. So this could very well have something to do with my Wi-Fi. Now it is up-to-date Wi-Fi. I got rid of the old grandfather program. So, I'm trying to build in, what is it called? Like a Google Hangout where you can have more people discussing things and that type of thing. Someone said I should, hook up with Skype. I don't know. You don't even know what that is. But for now, what's happening is I'm babysitting, and because I can't really do much because this little girl likes to be held because she's, under 6 months old. And babies at this age, that's what they like, right? I have to do something. And so as I'm following up with this caravan coming in from Honduras and places like that, what I happen to do is I happen to see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find it right now. I'm going to just hold on. I happen to see this. This is what I happen to see. Okay. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. That can't be true. This lady is at the border of Mexico and the United States of America. And this guy walks by with a bottle of honey that I have sitting in my cupboard for the last I don't know. I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna show you. Just hold on, because this is what sparked this video. It makes me want to do something. It makes me want to plan a fundraiser for sponsorship of families. And I've already made a post. Okay, there. Hold on. I already made a post in regards to the people that are down there making this video. They need to consider what I'm saying, because it is possible to bring in an international fundraiser that's legal and legit and meets all the criteria, because it's not simply fundraise for a different country and then just give them the money, right? There's laws around that, right? So even if I wanted to set up, okay, hold on. Here's the bottle. Do you see the white cap? I'm going to take this. The only way I can do this right now, people. Do you see that? I hope it's not going funny in there in terms of, do you see that? Can you see that? That is the same bottle with the same honey in it. I've had this for over a year sitting in my cupboard. Less than a year, but not quite a year. Because the lady just went to El Salvador last year before Tisha had her baby. And Alea May is already 6 months old. Do you see that? Now, if that isn't a sign, I don't know what is. All right? Hold on. Do you see what I'm trying to do here? Just. We don't know. They all deny it. He just walks by. There it is. Do you see it? He just walks by with the same bottle, with the same liquid inside, only with different caps. A year later, after I get this bottle. Hold on a minute. Okay? She grabbing onto everything. Okay? So that's what's sparking me to do this video and to get actively, here we go, actively involved. I'm back. I can see myself. I can see the chat. Right? She's grabbing at everything now, eh? So I should have a little toy here. I don't know where there's a toy. And because I have been working on a nonprofit for a very, 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 very long time, and I still believe in what I do, and I know that anything is possible if you put your mind to it, I'm making a proposal for them to think about maybe try and build in a fundraiser in partnership with the foundation I work on. And, you know, I'll call in the big guns like Governor Rick Perry. He's my buddy, right? And if I have all their ducks in row with the, what do you call that? The I's dotted with the T's crossed with transparent ledgers, you know, sponsoring families in that situation on the border of Mexico versus having them trying to bust through, get in, travel through the country, go to the East Coast, and then try and sneak in over a mountain. Under the current crises that is developing, because it's developing, and it's just a matter of time before they get into the tens of thousands, right? So how we turn that tide around, I don't know, because there's a lot of controversy around it, right? In terms of you bring more immigrants, especially poor ones, into your country, it takes away from the resources from your own people. And as countries, whether it's the United States or whether it's Canada, you know, we have our own social issues. We have our own Congo, right? Where numbers of people are facing homelessness and hunger and, you know, lack of health care and just so many other social problems that we have. But if you start bringing in thousands at a time, sooner or later, it's going to catch up to you, right? So there is nothing to stop the people coming from the farther ends of South America through that caravan, because it's an information highway right now, where people just see that they have a better life if they sacrifice the long walk, right? You know how they say, you don't know until you walk in my shoes. So if they're willing to walk that far in what they believe in, it's going to be very difficult to send back tens of thousands. At some point, the countries, whether it's the United States of America, whether it's Canada, and so on, you know, there is going to be some sort of sponsorship, whether it's through asylum or whether it's through refugee status or whatever these statuses are. Just happened, look, for me, the board director that is, I always say, you going to be the president, you be the president. Well, anyway, he went to school, right, to be an immigration lawyer. So I'm going to contact him at some point over the next couple, 2-3 weeks, and have a discussion with him to find out how we can maybe sponsor one family. We'll just start with one family, not we in terms of him and I, or me as a family, or the foundation, because the foundation is not in a position to do that. But through his education and through doing some networking in the community in terms of the Honduras community, the El Salvador community, because obviously people, they're here. I have the bottle to prove it, right? Like, what is the chances of me sitting here a year later looking at a video and just happen to see the bottle move by in the wake of a human crisis right at Christmas time, right? For the ones that believe in Christmas, right? And it's not even about believing in Christmas. It's beyond believing in Christmas. It's the gift of giving, the gift of life, the gift of hope, the gift of opportunity. And, you know, there are deserving families down there that would benefit to come to Canada, whether it's British Columbia, Canada, or whether it's Alberta or Saskatchewan. So if that bottle of honey can spark that interest and get people thinking, this is what this video is about, because I'm babysitting and I don't have a lot of time. So I'm sitting here thinking, right? And the bottle of honey just made me start to think, okay? So, you know, if it gets people thinking, right? Because I don't think it would take very much to sponsor a family with the right type of organization and networking involved, right? Because nobody wants to see people suffer. You know, nobody wants to see what's happening. I mean, obviously the tide has to be turned around at some point, but as the tide gets turned around, you know, the leaders of those countries, whether it's El Salvador or, well, I don't know about El Salvador and their politics, but Honduras and places like that, you know, they need to step up to the plate without bringing war to their country. You know, Trump, apparently Mexico has a new, I know this is really not my forte. I don't normally talk about politics on an international level. So, but, you know, I have the ability through the foundation to make a difference. And like I said, I can call in the big guns with the right networking involved, because 18 to 20 years of effort, it's like that long walk, right? Once you get to that walk, something has to break. So this might be a breaking point for the foundation, and it may very well, you know, bring sponsorship not only to one family, but to thousands. You know, Canada is a big country. The United States is a big country, and versus trying to bring people in as you know, refugees or just like whatever the immigration law are in terms of like, I have to do some research on that, right? Because I don't understand the legalities around it. I do know this though, however, and I don't know if it's true anymore. And if it is, it should be changed. And if it hasn't been changed, this is where fundraising would benefit these people greatly. Is I know for a fact that when I lived at Gateway Place and I worked with those African immigrants that were coming in from Africa, from Sudan and Tanzania and places like that, and they were coming in, some of them from refugee camps where they had nothing but one jug of sour milk all week, people, with tent after tent after tent with hundreds of thousands. That's where they came from. And they landed in the Gateway Place where I was in there with my kids working on program development in terms of children's program. right? Those people that came in under a refugee status were made to pay back, I think it was $1,500 per person, per family member. So if you come in as a family with 6 in your family, that's 1,500 times 6. I don't know what the math is on that, but that's a lot of money for a poor family coming in from a refugee camp with just having 1 jug of milk that was sour once a week in terms of the food source, right? And they don't speak English, habari, right? But they're very loving, and I mean, they're in a new new country with new this, and it takes time for people to adjust. And if the federal government is putting $1,500 per person as a head tax, I guess you call it, right? And it's coming off of their family allowance or baby bonus or welfare check or whatever it is, like this is where fundraising could just kind of cut it off at the top and say, okay, 6 people, 1,500 per person, just write a check and you're done. And then you can really just focus on helping that family to integrate into society where they participate and just don't assimilate, right? You have to participate. And this is part of the problem with immigration. And I think why people are so reluctant to get on the bandwagon of the caravan, right? In terms of, sure, come on in, we're just an abundance of wealth here and resources, and we love people, right? No, not necessarily, because sometimes it can backfire and then it becomes genocide in your own country because you become overwhelmed with the influx of immigrants that aren't, on the bandwagon of participating because they're too busy assimilating within their own culture and then separating themselves, even though they say that they're not biased. So, but that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the honey being the catalyst to get people thinking about developing a program locally, provincially, statewide, nationally, internationally, because it has to be a group effort, to begin factoring in a sponsorship program through various entities, families, organizations, a church, obviously some federal programs can be involved with that. So that's like 5 groups that you can tap into in terms of like sponsoring families as a whole, right? To either, well, in that case, you'd bring them to your country. In this case, this would be Canada. And at the same time, this is where fundraising would come in handy. With accountability, that is. You would also deal with the health issues and the social issues and those types of issues in the actual ground zero where the people are landing when they cross over through Mexico on foot, basically to get to the border of the United States and Mexico to cross over into the United States. So what you'd want to see in that case is as soon as people come, they get the medical attention that they need in terms of TB testing. And TB is the big one. TB is the big one. And because that one is spread through droplets and it mutates very quickly. And the, what is it called? Cure rate in terms of how long you have to be on medication for, which is about 2 years. And in terms of like the contagious time and when people are contagious with each other, right? It's up to 6 months. So you have to quarantine some people, not because you're punishing them because they're sick. You just quarantine them and making sure that they're getting their medication so that when you do let them out into the community, they're not spreading the germs unknowingly, right? And then they continue to take their medication. But again, you're talking about resources. And anytime you're thinking about people on a mass scale, the default always goes back to the government. It's the government's responsibility. It doesn't matter if it's social housing. It doesn't matter if it's school meal programs. It doesn't matter if it's freaking bus passes. It always goes back to the default of the government's responsibility. Whereas where the government says, well, hold on a minute, there's only so much that we can do. And it's obvious we can't even meet what we've got on our plate now. So And then what happens is once you get to that point, even if you do try and make that effort, and this is why you do got to bring in the big guns, because they know how to tweak, the, I wouldn't call it the legislation, but they basically know how to maneuver through the legislation to help you to get to where you need to go in terms of, okay, if you're a foundation and you want to help a government, say like a school district, I've learned this, I've been working on the nonprofit for a very, very long time. Okay. And what do you call it? And you want to say fundraise to do school restoration in terms of, you want to take an old building, an old brick building, and you want to make sure that it's earthquake safe. So you're going to go out there and fundraise, have to reboot a bunch. We'll listen again. Also, of course, is on again piece. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm just going to rattle on because I'm looking after a little AMA and I can't wash my floor right now. And I don't normally talk about this stuff, but since the honey brought me to it, right? And my mind is always going, right? And there are people out in the trenches that can either use ideas or because right now it's just in the idea stage, right? We're just sipping on some honey here, right? We're not having supper, but we're sipping on some honey with some tea or something, right? Bring out the tea leaves or something. But anyway, what was I saying? I don't remember what I was saying. I don't normally talk about this stuff, right? Just in terms of more of a global kind of a sense thing, right? Because when you by yourself like this and people don't normally listen to you, right? It's hard to stay motivated, I guess you can say. I wouldn't say positive, but more like motivated, right? So, in regards to bringing in a sponsorship program by the grace of honey from El Salvador that just happened to be walking by the American and the U.S. U.S. and Mexico border. Just happened to walk on by today. It was just happened to say, well, hey, you got one of those, come on, get involved. We'll have a honey party. Right? And I'm like, okay, well, what can I do? I mean, I can send $50 in the mail. I can do $50, $25 through my credit card, maybe next month, right? In terms of a donation. But outside of that, as an individual, thousands of miles away, what could I do? Well, I can bring the idea to have people start thinking about going out into the community, getting in contact with their church leaders, their organizations, their lawyers. That's a big one. Get a hold of your lawyers, right? And, maybe go talk to a few MLAs or governors or House representatives or somebody that that can maneuver through that legislation to sponsor a handful of families. Because if you're going to sponsor one, you might as well sponsor more than one. Is it a solution to end the caravan that's coming in and they're going to start bulging at the seams within a year? Within a year, people, like, how is that information train going to stop? Right? Like, if people have no reason to stay where they are and they're willing to risk everything, where the location that they end up needs to be prepared, right? And the faster you can get prepared, the better it will be to deal with the crises before it hits full-fledged. And if I was to put a number on it in terms of 1 to 10, I'd say right now we're not even at 0.5 into the game. So we've got a long way to go, right? Because it's happening all over the world. So we have to come together as individuals through the two countries, United States and Canada, legitimately through national fundraising to put in some resources. That's what I was talking about, to put in some resources so that default to go to the government is the pressure, you're like a pressure canner, the steam is released, right? Because even though, okay, this is where I was before, now I remember. So as a foundation, you want to do earthquake upgrades to an old building that has history in terms of an old schoolhouse, but because it belongs to the school district and to the state or the province or the municipality, I think schools belong to, well, ultimately the head of the state, and then it goes down into the municipality, right? And therefore, the default to fix that school and to make it earthquake ready, I'm just using schools as an example, falls on the government. So it becomes very hard for local organizations to fundraise to get the job done. And therefore, what happens is people end up waiting a very long time before things happen. Okay? So for as much as everybody wants to sit around and say this is the government's responsibility to house these people, feed these people, send these people back to wherever they came from, and blah, 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 blah. You know, at the end of the day, it's like the homeless situation. Waiting for the government, you'll be waiting for a long time in terms of fully dealing with the whole problem as a whole, right? In fact, it's going to be the opposite. It will probably compound and the problem will just get worse. Like I said, I think we're only into 5% of the game out of 1 out of 10 in terms of the numbers coming to the border of USA and Mexico to cross over. So because of the honey that just happened to walk on by today, let's pull up that video so you can see it. I'll do that again. There it is. Hold on. I hope this is seeing good. I don't know. Do you see the bottle there? There it is, people. Right there. Oh. Let go, let go, let go. No. Do you see? Do you see it? I mean, how close can you get when you're so far away? Huh? Does that not look the same to you? It looks the same to me, minus the caps. That's amazing. There's somebody telling me something. That's what that is. That's what you call fate. That isn't even coincidental. That's more like fate. So, if I can get people to start thinking about sponsoring families, at least start with the families, right? That's one solution in a larger mantra of problems, right? And my ear is ringing. You know, when you sit and then all of a sudden you get this high-pitched ring and it just goes and goes and goes. And you just wait for it to go away. That's what I'm waiting for right now. I'm just waiting for it to go away. There. Yeah. So, okay. Well, we got 4 viewers and I kind of said what I had to say. I wasn't very prepared for it. If I had a map, which I was going to bring a map out, but because, like I said, I'm watching Alea May, I thought, no, we'll just do it now. You know, I got a nice, beautiful map out here. So if we bring out the map, it's not one that I can put thumbtacks in, but it's something that I can get little sticky balls, and then we can kind of keep track from where these people are coming from. About the ear, yeah. My ears ring all the time. It's been waking me up 3 to 4 times a night. It never used to do that. But that's only because it's stress. This house, I'm always busy. I'm always on my feet. In the old days, it used to be 18 hours a day. Right? My little granddaughter, little AMA. Pretty soon, she's going to be crawling out of my arms. Right? So, okay, so we got 5 years. So what we were talking about was, the point of this video, if you're new, is I was watching a video. I will put a link to it in the description box, where a man walked by 3 minutes and 49 seconds into the video with honey that I have from El Salvador. Okay, and he's walking on the Mexican side, walking towards the American border. Right, as I'm following up and keeping track of, you know, the people that are coming to the border from Honduras and places like that, because their own countries, you know, is not conducive for having a better life, resulting from corruption and lack of available resources, right? Now, I did hear through one video where one man from the area of Honduras said that he came to Mexico, wants to go into the United States of America. However, now I don't know whether this is true or not. He said that if the money and the resources that were in his country in terms of Honduras were going to the people versus to the corporate corruption. Yes, I think that's, I need a map, but yeah, I think it's up by San Diego. It's yeah, it's not too far from California somewhere in terms of like by the border, I think. I need a map. Right? He was saying that it was the US military that was somewhat causing the financial crises in his country with a president that was corrupt and wasn't providing to his own people as Hondurans. And that's why so many are leaving and fleeing the country, in combination with a high level of gang violence and corrupt policing, right? How do you fix that problem? I don't know. All I know is Canada has the capability of absorbing some of these people, right? And I think as Canadians, I think if we leave it just for the government to solve an international problem that's going to end up on our doorstep anyway, that's like the homeless people out here. It's no different, people that judge the homeless people or will throw in my face that I should look after my daughter when my daughter is addicted and homeless on the streets and pestering the neighbor by pulling out the flowers, even though I had gotten my daughter a home and, you know, tried to maintain on that, which at the end, a mutiny came in and took it over. Just because people can say you should do it doesn't mean it can happen without everybody helping, right? Or just because you think it won't happen to you and end up on your doorstep doesn't mean it's not going to as the problem festers. What's on the American and Mexican border is something that's beginning to fester. And it's only at 5% of coming, not even 5%, 0.5% from 1 to 10. So it's a 0.5% out of 10 that's festering. And as more people come, well, it's just a matter of time before it ends up on your doorstep, as everybody's sitting around looking to the government to solve their problems by default. Doesn't matter if it's a school meal program. It doesn't matter if it's, you know, restoring schools to make them earthquake ready. It doesn't matter if it means, you know, providing proper health care to the elderly. It doesn't matter what it is. Everybody always looks to the government. And this is why I'm doing this video, because throughout the years, from the very beginning, when I founded the foundation has an ability to stand next to the government and help the government, right? Versus ask the government to give and then to give. Sometimes it's nice to have your own freedom. The foundation represents freedom, right? The only problem is I'm stuck way up here in the north by myself, basically, right? Living in my own Congo, right? Speaking of Congo, I don't know. I don't have my magnifying glass, but let's see if I can find this here and show you. I think I found some gold today in a rock. I do. Where is it? I'm just going to put the rock up right up to the screen. I mean, it was enough for me to say, let's see if we can find it. Oh, where is it? I'll look for it and I'll figure it out, and I'll make sure that the next time I do a video, it's pointed out. I think it's right here. This is where I need my light. Do you see it? Is it fool's gold in a rock, or is it real gold in a rock? That's the big question for the day. I know I got real honey from El Salvador. And the dude walking that way with his bottle is real honey from somewhere out in that way, right? I know. I don't know if it's fool's gold or real gold. We got a lot of gold out in the West Coast, though. You know that. So I wouldn't doubt it. It could be very well real gold. Didn't we have a gold rush out here a long time ago? Long time ago, there was a big gold rush out here. So it could be gold, right? That's why I seen that. I was going to chuck the rock over the fence. Get out of here. Just throw the rock, right? And I'm like, but it caught my eye, just like that bottle of honey. It just caught my eye. And I'm like, oh, hold on a minute. So, okay. So I'm going to end this now because I'm starting to kind of go around. So for the few that are watching right now, 3 of you, 2 of you, okay, what I want you to think about is sponsoring a family. You know, take one child and sponsor the family. And if you're unsure, think of it like this. Think of yourself being in Tanzania, in Africa, Tanzania. I don't think I'm saying that word right, but anyway, living in a refugee camp with hundreds of thousands of people in tents under the baking sun, waiting just for a sliver of hope to leave and to be someplace safe so that you can rebuild your life, right? And all you get is just one jug of sour milk, pretty much, and a little bit of rice and that type of thing, once a week with your family of 6 or 7 as a family, right? And then getting that opportunity to leave and rebuild your life. So that's what point of this video, and that's what the honey from El Salvador that's going across the border between Mexico and the United States today, same bottle, inspired me, is to promote that. So the next time I come and I talk about this stuff, I'll make sure I have the map behind me so that we can kind of pinpoint exactly where these countries are. I already made a proposal for people to think about it in terms of fundraising and whatnot. And, I've got the big guns in the back pocket. So I'm not too worried about that, right? Because people power, it's the best. It's a matter of just learning how to maneuver, I guess you can say, through that legislation. You got to be able to maneuver through it, right? And do it the right way, right? In terms of if it's going to become a movement, well, you want to make sure it's documented, it's ledgered, and all that other stuff. And if it starts with one child, with one family as a sponsorship to Canada, because now that's on my mind, I'm going to make inquiries and I'm going to ask more people to make inquiries and blah, 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 blah. All right, 43 minutes later. Okay, peace out. Oh, God. Yeah.